I meant no offense. Let's put this matter to rest over a round, shall we? My treat.
Hoping to soothe our pride with a few Adira coppers, eh? We don't need your coin.
Go on. Say it again. I'm itching for an excuse.
Fie, you're itching for the kindling touch of your sister, you cocksfeather!
I'll cut that barrel-licking tongue out of your head.
This is a misunderstanding. I didn't say whatever it is you think I said. We've nigh quarrel.
That's where you're wrong.
Not quite how I hoped to get to know the neighbors. Courtesy is a rare pleasure in these parts, though your accent suggests that you are no more local than I. Well, I suppose introductions are in order after that little fiasco. Aloth Corvusser, at your service. Well, I'm a wizard by training, and an adventurer by necessity. I was born in the Seathwood, part of the mainland of the Adir Empire, and both of my parents served the nobility, which afforded me an education for which I'm grateful. However, there were no open positions in those houses, and so I decided to seek new means in a new land. And how exactly did you come to be here? In Gwithan Ruins? Well, those can be dangerous places during the best of times, which these are not. In half the locals would arrest you for trespassing, and the rest would kill you outright. I'm curious, what exactly did you find there? As should I, given recent events. It's just as well. I've had enough of the watered wine and lumpy beds at the inn. They say even the owner tired of the place. Just up and left one day. It explains quite a lot about the upkeep. Perhaps I could join you. I could use a change of scenery, and I find it's better to travel in numbers. Excellent. I shall follow you.
There's a couple of jokes in here about the inn's previous...
Hail and well met.
Were you looking for someone in that tree? I could introduce you.
Have you come here for me, dear, or have you gotten lost? Ah, it is both, I think. Yes? Me? I'll bore you to tears, though. A student of the soul. Something so basic, yet so poorly understood. But so many breakthroughs have been made in my lifetime. Had been made. Had been. To hear the locals tell it, we're a gang of soul manglers that preys upon the weak-minded. And the worst of us are. But the best of us? It's a fascinating science, a fascinating time to be alive. Oh, come now, such a question, as though the answer were plain as a rope tied for strangling. Allow an old dwarf her last bit of cheer. Well, I came where I was needed, didn't I? offered my services to Lord Radric for a pittance, a humble pittance. I was to examine the Lord's wife, see why the gods have seen fit to poison her womb. Studied her for months, looked high and low for impurities, tested her valence, the permeability of her essence. Do you know what I found? Nothing at all. A healthy woman, head to toe, blessed with a beautiful soul. Such a sweet woman, too. And here I thought you'd come to visit me in particular. Caldara de Baranzi, of the Valian Royal Academy of Animantic Sciences. Of course, dear. The world looks a little different than it used to, is that it? You have seen past the shroud. It only takes an instant. Your soul remembers, yes? Remembers how it sees when it leaves the body, like being reminded of a dream you had forgotten. You are a watcher now, and a watcher you will stay. What indeed? Long hours have many animancers spent studying such things. Not I, no, not I. I'll tell you what I know, though, since fair is fair, and here we are visiting, you and I, and it reminds me of better times. Souls pass on, some say through Audra stones, which are the blood veins of the world. They leave the world for a time and are reborn into it, sometimes more than they were before, but usually less and seldom the same. A watcher sees, though, knows what to look for. And sometimes they know a person just by looking at them, know where they've been in ages past when their bodies were other bodies. See memories even their owner can't recall. A wonder to behold when all goes well, a wonder. Did you now, dear? Or maybe it got its hands around your soul but couldn't pick it up. A soul can be heavy if it stayed in one piece through its time. Strong souls, we call them in the trade. Called... Oh, yes, entropy. A very small few resist Remergan's influence and stay together through some force of defiance, at least for a time. But they all succumb eventually, Oh, nothing to be afraid of, I'm sure. It's just much to take in for some. Sometimes there's trouble sleeping or other difficulties. You should see old Nerwald. He could tell you much more than I. A watcher just like you. Goodbye, my dear. It was lovely visiting.
Seventeen and a half. Well, could be 18, depending on how you count the dwarf woman. The people hanging from the tree. 18 of them. Well, what? Name's Adair. Though to the people around here, might as well be 19. The dwarf woman. You were trying to figure out whether to count her as a full person. Well, I was smoking over here, saw you staring at her. Careful, friend. Best not use that word round here. Could be any number of Radric bootlickers within earshot. Of course, seeing you with that funny look, I'd be halfway inclined to believe you were having some kind of communion with that dwarf. The town's had it in for me for a long time now. Only fellow who ever stuck up for me, well... picked the wrong god. That's what it comes down to. Then one day, somebody named Widewind shows up on Deerwood's doorstep. Says he's the living flesh of Aethys. Got an army with him. Suddenly, Aethys isn't so popular in these parts. After the war, people took to punish. Seems that's no longer a concern. Seem to remember hearing something about that years ago. He tamed that place. People would seek him out for all kinds of things. Troubles of the soul, questions for the departed. Of course, that was back when you didn't have to say watcher with a hush on your breath. A man such as that, there'd be things I'd want to ask him. Don't know why I never thought of it before. Not sure how I feel about setting out with a stranger. And a strange one at that. All right, then. Guess I'll do some sightseeing. Long as you're not the one picking the sights.
I'm here.